ready? Thank you for being here today. As of this morning, we filed a motion for a request for a special prosecutor in the officer-involved shooting death of Aaron Bailey. The petition was filed this morning and order was entered appointing Kenneth P. Cotter, who is the prosecuting attorney of St. Joseph County, as special prosecutor in this matter. First, briefly, I'd like to touch upon the procedure that's involved in appointing a special prosecutor, just so there is no misunderstanding. First of all is the sole authority and discretion of a court to make an appointment of a special prosecutor. A prosecutor cannot go out and tap someone to be a special prosecutor. That is solely within the authority of the court to do so. Secondly, in order to be appointed as special prosecutor, that individual must consent to the appointment. The court cannot compel an individual to serve as special prosecutor. The individual must accept that appointment, and Prosecutor Cotter has done so. Since the incident at late June in which Aaron Bailey was shot by officers responding to a chase, we have considered several factors which might have justified the appointment of a special prosecutor. And as part of those discussions, some have suggested that the perception of the public is perhaps often more important than reality. In other words, if there are individuals in the public who perceive that the police agency or the prosecutor could not be fair and impartial, the fact that a police agency can do so, a prosecutor can do so, is not controlling. We agree and understand that perception can override reality. And as a consequence, a consideration in making this decision, a difficult decision, was the shooting death of Lieutenant Aaron Allen. We are very concerned about the perception that could be created if we as an office are simultaneously prosecuting an individual for the shooting death of a public safety officer, while at the same time perhaps passing judgment upon the officer-involved shooting of Aaron Bailey. Having said that, however, let me be as direct and emphatic as I possibly can. We have absolute trust and faith in IMPD and its investigators to undertake a fair, complete, impartial, thorough investigation of this matter. We have the privilege of having phenomenal leadership with Chief Roach, and the public has the additional assurance that the FBI is monitoring the investigation that has been conducted and will continue to be conducted by IMPD. Indeed, if we as the prosecutor's office can contribute to the ultimate confidence of the public in the investigation done by IMPD by stepping aside and allowing a third party to make the ultimate decisions that must be made in this matter, then that is an additional consideration in our mind that justified seeking the special prosecutor. Not surprisingly, I likewise have complete faith that the Marion County Prosecutor's Office has the ability and commitment to do what's right in every single situation that is presented to us. Not only should everyone trust that we will follow the appropriate course as we do our job, but for over 6 years now, we have repeatedly demonstrated that we will do so even if it involves our public safety officers. Lastly, we are very aware that these questions are undeniably and inextricably tied up in the national issues which regularly dominate your headlines. As citizens of this county and of our country, we are sensitive to and concerned about those issues. And so we understand why some would have the motivation to call for a special prosecutor in this matter. to make demands that the matter not be presented to a grand jury. We have had calls to our office. Trust me, I've been stopped on the street by individuals who wanted to share their opinion about this matter. But conversely, we've also had individuals share their opinion that they feel that a special prosecutor would be inappropriate in this matter. And so it's our sincere hope that all would understand that we cannot and will not undertake these significant decisions based solely upon a tally of public opinion or what we think might be politically expedient. That instead, our hope would be that all would expect and in fact demand that we make these decisions solely upon the law and the circumstances presented to us in each unique case that comes before our office. Happy to take a few questions.
Jerry, one of the things that's come up in this whole conversation about a special prosecutor has been some of the folks who have been calling for a special prosecutor have also said that the officers in this case are, should be charged with murder charges should have been brought against them. Anywhere concerned that if the special prosecutor comes back and says, hey, you know what, the officers follow standard procedure, that this won't do anything to, quell that, conversation?
Well, Mr. Cotter, Prosecutor Cotter, will obviously review this matter. He will participate with the detective. I am confident that if he thinks there are additional things that have been done, that he will instruct the investigators to do that. And when all is completed, Prosecutor Cotter will have to make the same decision that we would have had to have made. Is there a basis to charge these officers outright? Is there no basis whatsoever to charge the officers and clear it, or potentially submit the matter to a grand jury for a decision? He will have to make those same decisions, and I anticipate that's exactly what he will do.
There was a letter, petition, what have you, signed by several organizations that are part of the African American Coalition. Obviously, they sent that to you with their endorsement. What, if any, influence did that have on this decision? And were you comfortable with that?
First of all, I assume you're referring to the letter from several organizations that came within the last few days.
Yes.
And let me say in response to that first again, we absolutely do not begrudge anyone from expressing their opinion. I mean, that's obviously what we all do on a regular basis about any number of matters. That is absolutely their right to do so, and I am actually pleased that everyone is passionate about these matters and is free to express their opinion. Having said that, we had already made the decision that we would seek a special prosecutor, but the whole process didn't just happen instantaneously. We conferred with the court, and I think as set forth in the press release, the court basically had as its preference a twofold consideration, determining if there was a prosecutor from an urban, predominantly urban county who would be willing to accept it, and secondly, that it be the elected prosecutor and not a deputy prosecutor from some office. And so those conversations took a few days in terms of doing that. We undertook that at the court's request, and then led to the determination that Prosecutor Cotter was the one who most likely would fit the court's preferences and filed the petition today. So in actuality, the decision had been made at that time, but obviously we were not going to make that public until it was finalized with the court's order, which occurred today.
Could you give us some idea of the timeline? When did you decide that, hey, Aaron Bailey, this had happened on, June 29th? Okay, we do need to bring in a special prosecutor. Because there are a lot of folks in the audience who are wondering, well, why did they take so long, almost 2 months? Because you and I are both lawyers. We get it. A lot of media people get it. Could you help explain to the public that timeline?
Well, certainly. First of all, in terms of the ability of anyone to, I guess, go forward with the investigation and review of this matter could not be done by anyone, whether it's our office, the ultimate review, or special prosecutor, until the coroner's report had been received, which just occurred within the last week and a half. At the point at which the shooting of Lieutenant Allen occurred, we began to have serious conversations, and then that led to conferring with the court and to the petition today. But it was over probably the last couple of weeks that those conversations occurred.
Terry, I'm not going to duel. I'm not an attorney, but can you tell me, do you see this becoming, in high-profile cases, more so the norm than an exception? What would you like to see?
I'm not sure what you mean by the.
Well, in cases where there are police officers, their actions are called into question as far as in any other future cases like this, do you see this becoming a norm, calling in a special prosecutor?
No, I think we just have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. I mean, certainly, you know, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, because you've all heard me say it, in 6.5 years we've prosecuted 62 police officers. That's led to, I believe, about 42 convictions. There's about 7 cases still pending. And so obviously we've demonstrated that we will hold an officer accountable if they commit a crime. I think the ultimate unique situation here was having the simultaneous situation where not only we have a police officer who's been killed, but we are obviously in the process of evaluating that case as whether it's a potentially a death penalty case, and so you know, we believe that could contribute to a perception that would that perhaps we could not be fair and impartial, even though I am absolutely certain we could be, but we understand that there could be that perception. But no, I don't see this as a precedent that somehow every single case going forward that involves a public safety officer would request a special prosecutor. On the contrary, I would anticipate that would not be the case, absent unique circumstances.
Terry, how far did you get in the local investigation? What did you accomplish, and what will you hand over to the prosecutor from Allen County, or does he start from ground zero?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, you know, as in any investigation, a homicide investigation, you know, the reporting at some point comes that, oh, the report's been delivered to the prosecutor. The reality is, as I'm sure you know, that it sort of comes in bits and pieces as information that was available at the outset is provided to our deputy prosecutors, and then there's ongoing conversation with the homicide investigations going forward. I think in terms of identifying officers, identifying any witnesses and completing their investigation, that is essentially done about simultaneously when the coroner's report was done. As we indicated in a statement that we provided to the press about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, when we had that information, we actually requested an investigator assigned to our office full-time to do some follow-up on a couple of matters, and he did so. All of that information obviously is compiled, is together. I anticipate that yet today we will email to Prosecutor Cotter what is available to now. We will I also anticipate to meet with him yet this week, essentially to more formally hand off the investigation, to indicate to him that who is available in our office to provide assistance should he need it and answer any questions he has. And then at that point, obviously, it is solely within his control as to whether he seeks any further investigation by MPD, whether he seeks any further investigation by investigators from our office or anyone else. But he will be in charge by this week.
And even though there is special prosecutor, Terry, like you said earlier, that special prosecutor will still turn whatever information he finds over to a grand jury. Okay, just want to make sure.
No, I did not say that. I said that as in any case, you know, whether it's any sort of crime, as prosecutor, we have 3 options. Is that number 1, we determine no crime was committed as a possibility. Number 2, that we believe there's probable cause that crime has been committed and charge that individual outright. Or if it's a gray area, then potentially an avenue is to present it to a grand jury for determination.
Should the public view your decision to hand this over to a special prosecutor as a determination that your office, at least, did not decide there was no reason to file charges? I know that's a lot of triple negatives, but your office, I guess, didn't make the decision that there's no reason to file charges.
If I understand your question, no, we have not made. We did not make a decision one way or another in regard to
Right.
the appropriate course here. If that answers your question.
Prosecutor, at any point in the investigation, I know that Mr. Aaron Bailey's family called for a special prosecutor back in July. Did you guys take that into consideration, or?
Yeah, as you know, we met with Aaron Bailey's family members and their attorney early on to explain the process. And certainly we understand their position, their opinion, but ultimately, whether it's organizations or the fellow that came up to me in the city market or the Aaron Bailey family, we have to make that decision based upon our own evaluation and make that decision.
Have you met with Aaron Bailey's family since that initial meeting early on and before announcing the special prosecutor in this case?
No. We met with them to share our sympathy, as unfortunately we have to do regularly with the families of individuals who have been killed in Marion County. That happens regularly in our office, probably weekly. And so we shared our sympathy for what had occurred, as well as to explain the process. And what was frustrating to them, I know, is explaining, as we have explained to all of you, why we are absolutely precluded from releasing any information that is not yet in the public record. We know that's frustrating, but what we attempted to explain is, in this situation, these two officers are just like anyone else who is potentially accused of a crime. Because that's the case, then we can't release any information that is not yet in the public record. And that includes family members as well. And so that was part of our meeting, and assured them that there would come a day when they know at least what the investigation showed, but that as of that day, we certainly couldn't talk about it.
Have you ever called for a special prosecutor during any of your other 6 years in office?
Yeah, several occasions, and I believe all of them, it's been situations where the suspect or defendant has some sort of personal relationship, essentially, with me or other individuals in the office. Sheriff Layton's son is an example, and there are a couple other situations where individuals have been prosecuted and convicted by special prosecutors who have made contributions to my campaign. And so yes, it has occurred on more than a handful of occasions.
So this isn't odd for you, and it doesn't aggravate you that this is happening?
No, it does not. It does not.
Does the FBI investigation complicate your decision at all to seek a special prosecutor, or complicate the new special prosecutor's job?
No, I don't think so. On the contrary, I think, from our perspective, if we were continuing on the case or any case, or with Prosecutor Cotter, I think the fact that there's a potentially additional source of input is very helpful.
Will Prosecutor Cotter will he be conducting this from here in Marion County or from St. Joseph County?
Well, in terms of his ultimate, I guess, decision-making, or if it's submitted to a grand jury, that would occur here in Marion County. Obviously, I assume he will work some from his office in South Bend. One of the things we'll do yet today is to provide him all the contact information for the lead investigator, but ultimately, for example, if there's a grand jury proceeding, that would occur here in Marion County.
But it will be his team that's doing the prosecutorial side?
That will be up to him. I certainly can't speak for him, but I anticipate that if, for example, if he needs someone to do some legal research and that sort of thing, that he could rely upon his own staff. We will indicate that in addition to the IMPD investigators, if he needs to utilize any of our investigators, which we actually have 2 individuals who are full-time employees of our office who are retired police officers, investigators in our office, as well as the officers who are assigned, 6 officers who are assigned from the Sheriff's Office and IMPD to our office, that should he need any help, even if it's something as routine as serving subpoenas, that sort of thing, we'll offer those individuals to assist him.
Has the office ever used Prosecutor Cutter before, or has he conducted himself as a special prosecutor in any other cases?
As the latter part of your question, whether he serves special, I do not know. He has not served as special prosecutor in any of our cases.
Is he here today?
I'm sorry?
Is he here today?
No, he is not. Not that I'm aware of. I don't think he is. No. Thank you.